Freedom, oh, freedom. And before I be a slave, I'll go home to my grave and go home to my father and be free. Freedom, oh, freedom. And before I be a slave, I'll go home to my grave and go home to my father and be free. Freedom, oh, freedom. And before I be a slave, I'll go home to my grave and go home to my father and be free. A very pleasant good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to the People's Forum of In the Streets with Big Stone. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm dedicating this episode to Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman, as you know, ladies and gentlemen, she was responsible for freeing a lot of slaves back in the days of slavery. She herself was once a slave, and she risked her life going back and forth, just to free slaves. As a matter of fact, this is one of the famous sayings that why she didn't free more slaves was the fact that a lot of slaves just didn't believe that they were slaves. They just didn't believe it. And of course, Sojourner Truth, abolitionist and female right advocate. These are two great women, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to dedicate this special series to them. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm holding in my hand a ball of cotton. I just want you to take a look at this. This is a ball of cotton, ladies and gentlemen. And every time you use this, I want you to remember some of our past and what happened to some of our ancestors while working on the cotton field. Now let's go back to the field slaves in the United States of America. Let's take an intelligent look as to who were the slaves. Field slaves were usually slaves that worked in the fields from sunrise to sundown while being monitored by an overseer. The overseer was there to make sure that slaves did not slow down or decrease their field work until the day is over. Now, sunrise to sundown, all day. They have to eat early in the morning. That was their first meal before sunrise. And then they'll work right throughout the day without food, non-stop. And they'll eat late in the night when the work was done. Some of these slaves, ladies and gentlemen, their clothing were, especially the free slaves, were given an outfit annually, one outfit per year. During the wintertime, they'd be given additional clothing so that they could keep themselves warm. The children, in general, received little or no clothing, which means a slave child had to go naked up until puberty. The women, they were given long dresses to wear in the summer, and during the winter, they wore a shawl or pantalettes. The men were given pants to wear during the summer, while the winter, they were all given long coats to wear. You know, when they talk about, oh, wait a cotton picking minute, they're talking about working on the plantation. And a cotton picking minute seconds, ladies and gentlemen, because you can't waste no time working on the plantation. Field slaves were given weekly rations of food by their masters, which included some meat, corn, and flour. If permitted, the slaves could grow their own crops. Otherwise, they'd make a meal from their ration and anything else that they could find. They had breakfast at daybreak before going to work in the fields and at dinner at the end of the workday. Our ancestors worked long and hard. And ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I'm doing this, and a lot of people might be saying, why not us forget what happened to us? And I say, never forget. Now, the so called Jews, ladies and gentlemen, and I say so called Jews because we know who the real Jews are, the Falasha. The Jews, the so called Jews, they lost supposedly, and it is not really confirmed, ladies and gentlemen. They say they lost 6 million Jews to Adolf Hitler. Well, I wasn't there, so I don't know the exact numbers. But I can tell you this also, ladies and gentlemen. They classified the Jewish Holocaust as the worst atrocities that ever happened to the human race. 6 million lives were lost. Now, when one life is lost, ladies and gentlemen, don't get me wrong, it is a life lost. No human being should go through what they went through. But let's flip the page a little bit. Let's go back to the slave passage. We lost over 600 million black people. I'm talking about some to diseases, some was just sick and they just throw them overboard because they didn't want them to contaminate the other slaves. Remember, we're talking about slave for profit here. If you look at some of the pictures back there, you'll see how they packed these slave ships, ladies and gentlemen. There was no room to even move an elbow. If you want to take a urine, or if you want to take a pee, you have to do that right down there in the bunk. If you want to defecate, you have to do that right down there in the bunk. They're not going to let you up to come up on the deck to defecate. You have to do that down there. So can you imagine if a trip takes a week, a month, 2 months, 3 months? They'd have to sleep in that kind of a mess. Can you imagine the stench of urine and defecations? That was what some of our ancestors went through, ladies and gentlemen. So we have to remember and we have to make sure that we teach this to our youngsters because we must never forget what was done to us. Hell broke loose when they took us from where we were, peacefully living as peaceful people in Africa. I'm not going to spend too much time on the rough part of our lives, ladies and gentlemen, because I know we are kings and queens of Africa. I know that we are rulers of this creation. I know that we are here for a reason. We are God's chosen people. And I'm going to show you the greatness of some of our brothers and sisters that endured slavery, but they still rise to the top to become inventors of some of the things that we take for granted. We must never take the works of our ancestors for granted. So let's go to the records, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see some of our great inventions. Benjamin Banneker, 1731 to 1806. Born into a family of free blacks in Maryland, Banneker learned the rudiments of reading, writing, and arithmetic from his grandmother and a Quaker schoolmaster. Later, he taught himself advanced mathematics and astronomy. He's best known for publishing an almanac or calendar based on his astronomical calculations. Rebecca Cole, 1846 to 1922. Born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Cole was the second black woman to graduate from medical school in 1867. She joined Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell, the first white woman physician in New York, and taught hygiene and childcare to families in poor neighborhoods. Edward Alexander Boucher, 1852 to 1918. Born in New Haven, Connecticut, Boucher was the first African American to graduate 1874 from Yale College. In 1876, upon receiving his PhD in physics from Yale, He became the first African American to earn a doctorate. Boucher spent his career teaching college chemistry and physics. Dr. Daniel A. Williams. William was born in Pennsylvania and attended medical school in Chicago, where he received his MD in 1883. He founded the Providence Hospital in Chicago in 1891, and he performed the first successful open heart surgery. Don't forget that, in 1893. George Washington Carver, 1865 to 1943. Born into slavery in Missouri, Carver later earned degrees from Iowa Agricultural College, the director of agricultural research at the Tuskegee Institute from 1896 until his death. Carver developed hundreds of applications for farm products imported to the economy of the South, including peanut butter, sweet potato, soybean, and pecan. Charles Henry Turner, 1867 to 1923. A native of Cincinnati, Ohio, Turner received a BS in 1891 and an MS in 1892 from the University of Cincinnati and a PhD in 1907 from the University of Chicago. A noted authority on the behavior of insects, he was the first researcher to prove that insects can hear. Ernest Everett Just, 1883 to 1941. Originally from Charleston, South Carolina, Just attended Dartmouth College and the University of Chicago, where he earned a PhD in zoology in 1916. Just work on cell biology took him to marine laboratories in the US and Europe and led him to publish more than 50 papers. Archibald Alexander, 1888 to 1958. Iowa-born Alexander attended Iowa State University and earned a civil engineering degree in 1912. While working for an engineering firm, he designed the Tyne Basin Bridge in Washington, D.C. Later, he formed his own company, designing White Earth Freeway in Washington, D.C., and an airfield in Tuskegee, Alabama, among other projects. Roger Orliner Young, 1889 to 1964. Miss Young was born in Virginia and attended Howard University, University of Chicago, and University of Pennsylvania, where she earned a PhD in zoology in 1940. Working with her mentor, Ernest E. Just, she published a number of important studies. Percy L. Julian, 1899 to 1975. Alabama Junior, a bachelor's degree in DePaul University, a master's degree from Harvard University, and a PhD from the University of Vienna. His most famous achievement is his synthesis of cortisone, which is used to treat arthritis and other inflammatory disease. Dr. Charles Richard Drew, 1904 to 1950. Born in Washington, D.C., Drew earned an advanced degree in medicine and surgery from McGill University in Montreal, Quebec. In 1933, from Columbia University in 1940. He is particularly noted for research in blood plasma and for setting up the first blood bank. Emmett Chappell, 1925. There's no date of his death. Born in Phoenix, Arizona, Chappell earned a BS from the University of California and an MS from the University of Washington. He joined NASA in 1977 as a remote sensing scientist. Among Chappell's discovery in a method developed with Grace Piccioli of instantly detected bacteria in water, which led to the improved diagnosis of urinary tract infection. There is more, there's more. James West, 1931. James West was born in 1931 in Prince Edward County, Virginia, and studied physics at Temple University, specializing in microphone. West went on to author 200 patents and more than 60 technical and scientific publications. In 1962, with Gerard Sessler, West developed the foil electric microphone, which became the industry standard. Approximately 90% of microphones in use today are based on this invention, and almost all telephones utilize it, as well as tape recorders, camcorders, baby monitors, and hearing aid. For an experiment that used 65,000 processors to perform the world's fastest computation of 3.1 billion calculations per second. Omega Wallace computers are currently being used to forecast the weather and predict future global warming. April Erickson, 1963. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, MIT graduate April Erickson was the first female and the first African American female to receive a PhD in mechanical engineering from Howard University and the first African American female to receive a PhD in engineering at the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center. Erickson has won many awards, including the 1997 Women in Science and Engineering Award for the Best Female Engineer in the federal government, and she's currently the instrument manager for a proposed mission to bring dust from the Martian lower atmosphere back to Earth. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I'm doing all this is because I just want our youngsters, and these are the ones that I'm really, really interested in, is our youngsters, to arm them with the fact that even though we are from kings and queens of Africa, and then we were captured and brought into slavery, we just didn't die there on the plantation. We developed the skills that we were born with from our ancestors, the great mind, the great creations, the great this, the great that. All of that is inspired and transformed into you. So I'm talking about you young gangsters. I'm talking about you young ladies out there that is thinking about, man, my life is worthless. I'm just a slave. No, your history didn't start there. Your history started millions and millions of years ago when we were creators of this universe. And it is said, if we did it once, we can do it again. So youths, lift up your head, raise up your character. Think about how great your ancestors were and how great that you can become. I know I am a great human being, and I'm not being cocky, ladies and gentlemen. I know that my ancestors were kings and queens, and I know I am a king. I know that. And because I know that, I carry myself kingly, my actions are kingly, and my teaching is also kingly. So anytime, ladies and gentlemen, and let me reach over here. So anytime, ladies and gentlemen, you take a cotton to do anything, remember that your ancestors were kings and queens. They were brought to the United States of America. They worked hard days and nights on the plantation picking this fucking cotton. But guess what? Their blood, their sacrifice must never be forgotten. And that is why I'm doing this today. Never you forget where your ancestors came from, how they fought, bled, and died. You are from a great race of people. Consider yourself proud to be black. Because guess what? I am proud to be black. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. And I do hope that this was worthwhile listening to. And you, anytime you think of yourself less than, go back to the cotton. Because guess what? Out of this cotton came forth great, great, great people. So thank you very much for watching, and I do hope you can have a cotton-free day. Thank you. Hey, I'm gonna jump around, spin around, pick a bale of cotton. Jump around, spin around, pick a bale of cotton. Jump around, spin around, pick a bale of cotton. Oh, I don't even know the rest of the word. Have a great day. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you.